Hey there, YouTube listeners and everyone out there in Earth Station One world. That's right. You're not seeing a flashback to old time Earth Station One. Bobby Nash is with us tonight. Welcome, Bobby.
Oh, it is so good to be back. It's been a minute.
It has been. It has
Yeah.
been. For those who are new to the show, Bobby Nash used to be one of our co-hosts for quite some time.
Back in longer ago than it feels like. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. I
no,
was talking to somebody about it the other day.
you still wake up screaming at night because of it.
Well, so I was talking to somebody about it the other day, and I said, "Yeah, I was a co-host a couple of years ago," and then I got to doing the math, and I'm like, "No, it was longer than that."
But it's not been long enough where people don't think it's still the Bobby Nash show.
Yeah,
Well.
people at cons still come up to me. Why did you get rid of Bobby? You know, it's like didn't get rid of Bobby. You know?
It's so funny because I do get people at cons who listen back then as well, who are just people are convinced there is some kind of animosity between the three of us is why I left.
No, there's none. That's the thing.
It was so funny.
Well,
we were
not since the court.
Not since the court, yeah. But I remember right after I had stopped being a co-host, I remember we were at, I want to say it was the Atlanta Comic Convention, the one-day show. And there was a guy there who was asking about it. And Mike Faber was standing within earshot, you know, but the guy didn't see him. And so I just figured, being the smart aleck that I am, I just played into it. And I started just feeding this guy a line. And then once I realized I had him hooked, I went, "Isn't that right, Mike?"
And it was like
Mike just kind of comes in and he starts laying it on this guy. So yeah, it was
It's like, damn it, Nash, your ego just got too big for the show and everything. And and let's set it straight right now. In all truth, we love Bobby. He's integral to the history of Earth Station One. We probably wouldn't still be doing it for because of Bobby was great, and when he came on board, and
because that was that was kind of when you guys had your first big growth spurt too, I think. Right around that time, because you guys started. That was when you introduced Earth Station Who, and that was around that time when all that stuff started.
Exactly, because if you remember when we first started the show, we always talked a lot about Doctor Who on the podcast and everything.
Yeah, and it was like 3 hours long.
They were 3-hour episodes a lot of times. Heck, there was one episode we ended up doing that we had to split into 2 episodes because it was almost like 4.5 hours. We recorded it, I think, at Titan Comics.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that's the anniversary of Batman episode we did, and it was like, I think even though we split it up, I think each part was still over 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
We just talked about everything, and
I mean, it's Batman.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
I remember too, speaking of that, those were some of my fondest memories were when we would do the in-person events at comic shops or conventions or wherever we were doing them. We had several of those, and those were always a good time.
We were trying at the time, I think, doing them once a month or something.
And we hit several different comic shops and places like that around, and
exactly,
it was fun.
Exactly. And it was always a blast to do that kind of stuff. But we'd always advertise, and we'd get like 2 or 3 people show up to join us in the show. Or when we did Earth Station 1 200, I remember we had a whole bunch of people. We did it at Odin Comics, which is no longer in business. And
then we did a
lot of shops that we were at are no longer in business.
We killed them.
We killed it. Thank you, Rock Shop. Sorry.
We did, because we did the big one at Titan. Now they're still there, but one of our anniversaries was at Titan and Smyrna.
Right.
There was I forget which one, but there was a bunch of us there.
Oh yeah,
that was a lot of fun. And so it was a good time.
They were fun doing those, but it was always interesting because you also were able to introduce us to a lot of writers and a lot of folks in the comic industry and everything. And it was always great to be able to do that. And like you said, it was the total growth period, because that's when ESO Network was just starting up. And because we split it off into Earth Station Who, and actually you were even on the first episode of Earth Station Who with us. and everything when we talked
Yeah, I
about
think
the
I was
first
on for a
episode.
while there when we were doing like when new episodes were airing. I was on
Right,
pretty regularly because we were watching it every week.
right.
And we
And
did
that's
that. We did that one. Was it one of the? Was it the anniversary episode? It may have been the
oh,
50th where we did it. Then Timegate had the
we all ran
showing, the
we ran
screening,
to
and
the hotel to go
yeah,
see
ran
it
to the
with the
hotel, did that. Then we watched the Five-ish Doctors, and then we did a show, and yeah, it was so yeah, that stuff was just amazingly fun.
Mhm. And it feels like yesterday, but when you look at it, that was 10 years ago.
I know, right?
Exactly. And it's like we have the gray hairs to show it, all of us.
That's right. Yeah, I saw a picture. Someone posted a picture the other day of me from a convention in 2010, and yeah, none of this gray was here.
The that photo shoot that we did with Sue, where we
Mm,
were, with the satellite dishes and behind us and everything, that was still one of my favorite
yeah.
photo shoots I've ever been part of.
Yeah, that was
That
fun.
was
I
so
I
much
love
fun.
that, and that location, with those satellite dishes was awesome. And we filmed it. I know we shot in several different locations, but yeah, those are
Yeah, and we tried
I've
doing emulating the Joshua Tree from the
yeah, I've seen
U2
that. I've
album.
seen a couple of people wear the shirts over the years, and
Oh yeah.
it's pretty cool. Well, hey, I
Hey,
got
wait a
tagged.
minit.
I got
I'm on your
tagged in a photo
chest.
once, and I'm like, I'm not in this photo, and I realized, oh, they're wearing an ESO shirt. I guess I am in this photo.
It is cool to, do that. And you have been massively busy though, sir. We've been
Who
seeing
knew? Who knew that the apocalypse would be good for my career?
let's
well, but
let's look at this for a second. Okay, so 2022, you released 13 short stories. You completed 13 short stories, 5 novels or novellas, 18 comics for a total of 36 different projects. That's
Yes,
now that's got to be a big year even for you.
that's a big year for me. Yeah, it's weird how it works. Like you mentioned the number of comics, especially writing comic scripts is very much either a feast or famine. I will go like a year or 2 or 3 years and not get a single piece of comic work at all, and then all of a sudden in 1 year from multiple publishers I get all this comic work, which is awesome. And but it's weird how it just kind of dumps on you at one time, because all the comic work is work for hire. These were companies bringing me in to write these, so that was fun. And I love comics was my first love. That was where I learned how to write, was doing comics.
mhm.
So yeah, so getting to do some comics was pretty cool. And most of them should come out this year, because you work a
Gotcha.
year ahead.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see how they come out, because a lot of times I don't see the art until the book is done.
Well, it's always
And
interesting, like with, doing that. Do you have to ever sign like any NDAs so that you can't discuss stuff?
sometimes some publishers are more, yeah, everything's top secret. Others are not. Like I'm doing 6 of the comics that I wrote. They told me I could talk about. It's for an educational publisher, but it's crime fiction set during real historical events. And so they do everything in bundles of 6 because they sell them to libraries primarily.
Right.
And
Okay.
so I had to pitch them 6 standalone comics and they gave me the historical event, and then I wrote a crime fiction story that tied into the event. So they gave me the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the Titanic, Mount St. Helens erupting, the blackout in New York in '77, Son of Sam, and Hurricane Katrina. So those were the 6 historical events they gave me, and then I came up with different crimes to work around those. So that was fun. It was a lot of research too, because I also had to write 3 pages of real history about the event
Sure.
to go with it. So it was a lot of research, very heavy research stuff, but it was fun. All 6 of them are written. 5 of them have been edited and approved. Just waiting on the last one edits to come in. So that was big fun.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then
Well, I guess
I'm doing a couple of mini series. I can't go into details on those yet, but I'm doing a couple of mini series for a company who is working with producers, and they are developing them for streaming. So the
oh
first one I've
really?
already turned in, and the screenwriter, while the artist is doing the comic, the screenwriter has already written it into screenplay format. So they'll be filming that. I want to say next year's when they're going to film that. So yeah, so stuff like that's pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome when you can do stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
then you get to see your stuff not only in print, but also up on the big screen.
Mm-hmm. And more people pay attention to that.
Oh,
You know?
yes.
Go figure.
Oh, it's a movie. Great. It's like, but
Exactly. Oh, you're the one who wrote that? Oh,
Yeah.
come on
Yeah.
board, sir,
because like those Star Trek fan films I did, I get more attention for those just because they're filmed, they're watchable. You don't have to do that pesky reading.
Oh, I remember
So,
when you did the stuff for the Farragut. I remember
Yeah.
when we went to the Farragut because, you were there as the big celebrity. And
yeah, I know. I felt
'cause
really
you
good.
wrote
It was
the
like,
episode.
I want to go back. They're doing the people that own that set are doing tours now.
Mhm.
They had one last weekend. I want to go back one time. I think they do one weekend a month or
Mhm.
every other month or something like that. And because they've built a few sets since I was there last time. There's an
Right.
engine room. There's
Right.
I think there's a green screen planet, set.
Right.
I'd love to go back and visit again. That was an incredible, that was an incredible place to go. I think we all had a blast.
Oh yeah.
There's a
In a
lot
lot
of
of ways, it
photos
was the dream come true. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it wasn't really the sets, but it was the next best thing.
Yeah.
Well,
I know I've
it
got
was always
photos.
cool to do too.
Yeah. And I know I've got photos of all of us standing on like the transporter pads, and there's one
It's
where
like,
there was the three of us, plus it was a lot of other ESO people, and we were on the bridge, and Mike is in the captain's chair, and then Mike and I are doing the Sulu and Chekhov, stations, and then the rest of them are just kind of around us, and that it's a great picture of all of us. And
it's like, would you trust these people to come to your planet?
right.
That's always what made it great. Yeah, that's on one of my screensavers on my computer, and it pops up and it's like, oh, there's trouble coming.
Mm-hmm. That was such a fun time, and those sets are just so gorgeous. And so it's really I'd love to get back. It's been several years now since I've seen them, and I'd love to get back down and
Well, I remember we had
again.
everyone down there because we had Dr. Scott, we had Anthony Taylor, we had, I think, was Maddox there? I think.
Yeah, Maddox was there. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember because that was the second time I had been there. And so I remembered how I felt the first time I went, because the way that set is designed, unless you look straight up, it's an all-encompassing illusion, especially in the corridor. And they would have you get up right next to the door, and then the turbo lift would open, and it's just like suddenly you're there. And I remember how that felt. So one of the good things I did was I kind of stood back and let everybody that had never been there before, like Mark and Anthony, watching them go through the door, because they were doing that for every person individually, and just watching the look on their faces as they went through the door for the first time. That was exciting for me too, because I remember how that felt when I did it.
It was awesome because Gordon actually met me at the door to the building and said, all right, do you trust me? And I went, yeah. And he said,
still that way. Still that way.
And he said, close your eyes and I'm going to guide you. And so he guided me through, and then he said, okay, open your eyes. Open my eyes. I was in the hall of the Enterprise.
And when we were there, they had the colored lights on too, so it really sold the illusion. Such a beautiful set.
They had the Jeffries tube, they had the sick bay, they had the mess hall. It was awesome. And then when you walk on the bridge, it's just like, and
it was, and they didn't treat it like it was precious. It was, no, go sit, touch, play.
Yeah. No, you can't sit in the captain's seat.
Yeah. I have a nice photo of me, sitting in the captain's chair, but my favorite spot of the entire sets, I went and stood in the turbo lift at the back of the bridge, and looked out over the bridge. And I think that's my favorite spot to be there. It was just, excuse me, it was so cool. It was just really cool.
And
Because
then
that's something.
the transporter room too.
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah. Well, also too, because that's, if you know, watching Star Trek, I don't think we ever saw the camera look out from the turbo lift. So it was a unique perspective. And so, yeah, it was just, that was cool stuff. That was a fantastic weekend. And I think we had, because we were doing, you know, there was like a mini convention in there because we were set up. I know I had books out and you guys were interviewing people and so we were doing all that stuff. And it was the same room where Mike Gordon and I went when they premiered the episode that I wrote, and they played it up there on the big wall. And yeah, that was a moment. Yeah.
You were a little verklempt. It was okay.
I was a whole lot.
Yeah.
It was so cool, especially like seeing my name up there, and it was just so, oh yeah, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. So that was cool. And
we should also point out to people who are seeing this for the first time, maybe, or not aware, the Farragut Star Trek fan films, I believe, are still available on YouTube. You can watch them. I know that they, you know, there was some complications with Paramount and all that, but the ones that they filmed and shot, I think, are still readily available.
They put all of them out, and they're actually doing a new one.
Really?
They are currently doing one called Farragut Forward. It takes place during the movie era. So the Farragut, in their last episode, the Farragut takes a beating and is going in to be refit. In Farragut Forward, they're in the Wrath of Khan jumpsuits and
the red stuff.
Yeah, there is a trailer. They did shoot a small trailer that opens up where they've been captured by Klingons. And it looks really good. So you guys want to go look at it. It's really good. But they're filming it now. I think they are doing like a thing to raise money to pay for sets and stuff. But they're filming it now. I just saw some shots from this weekend's filming they were doing. It looks good. Those guys, man, watching their progression, they have come leaps and bounds from where they started as just, you know, guys going, wouldn't it be cool to do our own Star Trek, to these guys are having a professional looking product. And
it's gotten so much easier to do special effects and everything over the last 10 years since we were down there and stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah. And they're learning. I mean, they're learning with everything they do. And, you know, people who work in the film business, who are fans, have chipped in and are working with them. And so they've picked up, a lot of skills, and they do a fantastic job with costuming and set design. And yeah, they're fun. It was fun. I had a blast doing it, and I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of it. It's you know, and I got to write Star Trek. It was how cool is that?
Dude, so that is always awesome.
I have to ask you, on your output last year, since it was so varied, and I know that everything that you wrote has not been released yet.
Right.
However, I do wonder, has there been anything outside of the comics so much as anything that you did short stories wise or novel wise that was a genre that you hadn't touched yet that you were really excited about tackling?
Not really. I didn't really do anything too crazy. There was a little bit of fantasy, which I don't do a lot of, but nothing too outside of, you know, I've never done this before. You know, there was Western stuff, which I don't do a lot of, but it was weird Western, that horror Western thing. So that kind of, stuff like that. I wrote some murder mysteries and some pulp stuff and snow and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so nothing really, it wasn't a lot of experimentation. Although I do have one this year I'm going to write that's a little out of the norm of what I normally write. Actually, my plan is, if all, you know, barring any hiccups in the road, my plan is to start working on it next month. We're going to do my dad and I are going to take some trips and do some research So yeah, we're working the road trips into the research. So that's good. We're going to do that, and I'm going to
Well,
write
it's
that.
always great to see the road trips that you guys
Oh,
take.
we have a ball. We have a ball. That was one of those things too during the quarantine where everybody was like, stay away from everybody. Those road trips became that thing that keeps you sane. It keeps you from just going stir crazy, being stuck in the house.
Oh, sure.
And because we discovered you don't have to go anywhere to take a trip. You can just, we're going to head toward this direction, and we'll go till we get ready to turn around, and we'll come back a different direction. And so we have traveled to some very interesting places. Now, we've been doing it a few years now, so we revisit a lot of the same places over and over again. But yeah, it's fun. We'll take, it's like, what, we haven't been here, let's go there. And now that things are not as quarantined as they were, I'm finding like used bookstores and comic shops I've never been to, and stopping and visiting those. My dad loves motorcycles. We stop and look at the motorcycles, and so different things like that. And I found a lot of really cool books and used bookstores that were just, had to come home with me. And
I always love like Bobby's finds of the day.
yeah,
where you post up on Facebook.
between that and, finding, with thrift books and eBay and Abe Books and all those places, I find stuff and I'm like, I don't really need that. The next thing I know, it's like, it's in your inbox. Oh, well, I won't get it. I'll save it for later. Oh, it's on its way. but yeah, I found some really cool, looking for out of the norm stuff. Not stuff I would go to the comic shop and buy. Just
Right.
looking for things. And so stuff that for whatever reason, when I was younger, or like when I was in my 20s or 30s collecting, I would look at some of this stuff and go, that's kid stuff. I don't want that. But now I look on it with a bit of a different viewpoint. And it's like, ooh, these things are really cool. Like, came in the mail today was a little box set of Superman books. They're storybooks with like story and spot art. And they're only like they yay big.
Right.
And they're definitely made for kids. And when I was in my 20s and 30s, I wouldn't have cared a lick about those. But now there's something about those that I just find so cool. And so
it's funny too, and how sometimes they're mislabeled and such when you go to like an antique store or thrift shop, and you go, oh, I know what that is. Sure, I'll take that for $5. Sure.
Yeah, I see the word vintage put on comics a lot in those type of places. But yeah, I find some pretty cool stuff. And it's like, there's a couple of different stores. Every couple of months we'll go visit certain ones over and over again. There's a great one in North Carolina that I go in there, and for like $5, I come out with like 30 books.
That's awesome.
And they're good stuff. Like, I got the whole 60s run of the Tarzan reprints with those psychedelic covers for 75 cents a piece.
Wow.
And so I was like, yeah, I'll take those all day long. And so stuff like that, that's cool. And so, but it also gives us time. We enjoy the trip. We enjoy each other's company. And,
well, that's also going to be time you cherish later on.
Yeah.
This is the time I got to spend with my dad and everything.
And we have a good time. We kind of made a joke out of it. I started taking photos when we travel, and I would make jokes about, oh man, that'd be a great place to hide a body. And so it's research for a future book. And so it's kind of become a joke of, well, what do you need in your next story? Great, we'll go find that. And so I'm taking all kind of photos, like the sixth book in the Snow series. The location changed when I wrote it from when I plotted it, because we rode into the mountains in Highlands, North Carolina. And we saw there's a river that runs down the side of the mountains, lots of waterfalls, beautiful, beautiful. And during the winter, it's just stark and cold, and it's perfect location. So that location became the location in the book. And I was snapping all kind of photos of, this can go here, and I can, and photos and videos. So that way, when I write it, I can just look at those and I'm there again. And it helps me describe the place a little better. And so we've been doing a lot of that and going like, oh yeah, I could set something here, or, I could kill somebody over there.
It makes these road trips now write-offs. It's research.
Exactly. Yeah. And so
See,
it's like, so yeah, so, and, and it gives us something to, to talk about. It gives me stories to tell, like now telling these, and yeah, it's fun. We have a good time. We enjoy it. My dad loves to drive. That's something him and my mom did a lot after they had both retired, and he loves that. So we do it, and we have a good time. I get a good nap in where it's great. I'm not driving. I'm not. I should probably say that. I'm
Yeah, I was
usually not
going to say.
driving. Yeah.
How many cars have you gone through now?
No, he loves to drive, so he drives, and usually on the way back from wherever we're going, at some point I'm like, and so I get in good naps. It's great, but yeah, it's fun.
Win-win
We have a good
situation
time.
for everybody.
Yeah, and we try different restaurants, and we try to local restaurants, or we don't we're not going to Burger King and McDonald's and Wendy's and that kind of stuff. We're trying to find cool places to eat, and so yeah, so it's fun. We have a good time doing it, and yeah, it's fun.
And that's the cool thing about it. Are you doing any extra work anymore for TV or movies or anything? Because I knew you were doing that pretty heavy for a while.
It's been kind of slow because after obviously during the pandemic, things slowed down. But once it started picking back up, I have to work it around the writing, and taking one day is not bad. But I would have to say, if I was going to work on Wednesday, I would have to go south of Atlanta on Monday, take a COVID test. That's a 3-hour round trip. I'd have to go on Tuesday, back down there, 3-hour round trip, take another COVID test, then come back, then go to work on Wednesday, take one there. And so that's 3 days. It was hard to work that. So I haven't done a lot. I did actually apply for one for this week. They're filming in Winder, where I live.
Oh yeah.
So whenever they film in Winder, I try, the last thing I only did one thing last year. They filmed a John Travolta movie here in Winder. And I never saw them casting anyone locally, but it was right. I would drive past base camp every day. And I was like, so I saw the name. So I emailed the company and says, hey, just to let you know, I'm an actor. I live 5 minutes from base camp. If you need anything, I'm here. And so she goes, well, great, I'll keep you in mind. And I didn't hear anything. And I get an email that says, hey, we're coming up on our last day of filming. Can you play a fry cook? And I'm like, sure. So I went and played a fry cook. I didn't get to meet John Travolta. He did not work that day. But I met the villain. Actually, I cooked, because I was cooking real food in a real restaurant. And so I actually ended up cooking for part of the cast, because they were like, hey, we heard there's food. And so yeah, so if Brad Dorf, or what was it, Dorf,
yeah.
He was in Blade. Was it Brad Dorf? Not Brad Dorf. Yeah, if he drops over dead, it's probably because I poisoned him. But it's been a while, so I think he's okay. But I did that last year, so I don't know when that's coming out. It's called American Metal.
Oh, cool.
I don't know when it's coming out, but then this week is a TV show, and so I applied for it, but
you'll see.
Yeah, and I applied for one other. Gotham Knights is looking for someone to play a dead guy, and they were looking for people with experience, and I was like, wait, I played a dead guy once. So, but I haven't heard back from either of them, and I may not, so. Yeah, the one in Winder is a show called Zoltar. It is a sequel. It's a sequel. Yeah, the sequel to Big. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I'm looking to get back into doing more of that, because you're not having to go as many days now. Like if I get the one on Thursday, I would have to go Wednesday and do a COVID test. So it's just 2 days. So, and that close to home, it's hard not to want to work that close to home.
Sure.
So yeah,
absolutely.
So I'd love to do more. It's just, it's when it happens and when you can find stuff. And they're still not doing big they're not doing as much still. I mean, they're picking back up, but there's still a lot of stuff that's not getting done. But they are
No,
filling more and more stuff out. And certainly we've lost a lot of shows, you know, like the Walking Dead stuff wrapped up, and the spinoffs I don't think shoot here.
mm-mm.
And you know, that ended. Something else, MacGyver ended, and something else that was filming here ended. And so yeah, so there's several, you know, things like that have just stopped. And so
But there's always something going on.
Yeah.
I'm seeing notices all the time. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's hurting for business. Regarding shows, different kind of shows, cons, you've already done your first con of the year.
Yep. Did ACC
And
last weekend.
yeah, how did that go, and what's your schedule going to be like this year?
It was good. I mean, ACC is always a fun time. It
How did
was
the crowd look?
it was busy, but not it wasn't quite as busy as it was right before the pandemic shut everything down. You know, it was used to be like super crowded, and we're not quite at those numbers yet. We're probably getting it to 800, 900 people there, but they're not there at the same, like in the morning, there's, you know, there'd be that big crush of people, and that's not the case. And I have heard from some people that are just like, I'm not paying to park. And
Oh, right.
Oh,
'cause
that's
you have to
right.
pay to
The
park now.
hotel's paying now.
yeah, Marriott has gone to a pay to park. Apparently it's a Marriott thing now. And it's not expensive. It's like $8 if you're there an hour or two, but there's some people that's where they draw the line. So, but it was still good. It was still a nice crowd. I sold some stuff. You know, there were constantly people in and out. So yeah, so still a fun show. That show has been going on for 29 years.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. It was like we said earlier, like it feels like I was just a couple of years ago here. I've been doing that show since their first one. You know, I think out of the 29 years, I've missed like 6.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Considering
So
they did 4 a year.
4 a year. And now, because now Wes, who runs the show, Wes was very kind to me. He was giving me table space and calling me a guest when I was printing my comics out on, you know, photocopiers and stapling them together myself. And he was giving me space. And, you know, for that, I am ever so grateful. You know, that helped me learn how to do it, how to talk to people as a guest, how to learn how to, you know, act in that capacity. And so, yeah, so I'll do that show until they tell me to stop coming. So
And they still, I like, you know, the one thing I do like about that show too is that, I mean, you can get great deals on trades and stuff too in the one room, but in the hallway, there's always, you know, independent creators. And it seems like every time they do a show, there's a couple of new faces every once in a while. So that's
yeah,
always cool. It's not just the same artists, the same people over and over again. I mean, there are some that have done it like you, but there's other people, like it seems to be he rotates them out, and there's
yeah.
fresh faces almost every time there.
Yeah, there were a couple of new faces I didn't know, people that I didn't know this time I introduced myself to, local comic creators, and, you know, they're showing off their books, and it's always cool to get to meet more local people and that do it. And because there's a lot of people in our area that are creative, that are publishing comics and novels and whatnot. And yeah, it's really cool to meet new people, and yeah, it was always fun. And yeah, and you know, I think I'm just kind of grandfathered in, but you know, I'm kind of like, that's my spot.
That's right.
I just kind of know, you know, me and Jason Flowers, I think, you know, we're kind of like we have our spot.
That's Bobby and Jason's spot. Don't
Yeah,
ever take
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. And we're up near the front. We're like the first, usually like there's a main guest and then there's us, you know. We didn't actually have a main guest the last time. It was just us. And but it was fun. We had a good time, and it was just a fun day. And yeah, I bought I spent more money than I should have, but I sold some stuff too. So, you know.
And on the
It pays for
horizon, what
itself.
do you got coming up?
On February 4th, I'm doing a publishing talk and a book signing at the Crazy Cat Lady in Ackworth, which is a
Nice.
bookstore. So we're going to do, I'm going to do it where I go in and, people can ask questions, and, I can talk about the writing and publishing, that kind of stuff. So I'm doing that on the 4th. I'll also be back in March to the Crazy Book Lady for a multi-author book signing. There'll just be like 5 or 6 authors there signing. So that'll be fun as well. I'm doing the Columbus Comic and Toy Show at the Coca-Cola Science Center in Columbus in February.
I remember you told me about that one years ago.
Yeah, it's February 26th. I've done that one a couple times. I think Mike went with me one time, and
Right.
a couple times, yeah. We went one time and we had the wrong weekend. We get down there and it's like, where is everybody? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, that was last weekend. And I'm like, oh. but it was cool. The planetarium, I remember, because we missed it. Mike and I went to we'll go to the planetarium show, and it was Tom Baker. Tom Baker was narrating it. We had a ball with that. That was fun.
That was awesome.
Yeah. One year during the convention, they showed my Farragut episode in the planetarium. Up on the
Nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, it wasn't the whole thing. It was just one, but still, I got in there and I kind of, introduced it, and, here it is, and sat back, and people were sitting in the planetarium watching it. And that was awesome. That was one of those cool, fun, yeah, like I said, those moments that kind of stick with me. That's definitely one of them. Beyond that, I don't really have a whole lot scheduled. I'm going to be at Toylanta in March.
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to be there as well.
Yeah, I told Ricky I'd come do some panels. So I'm putting together some panel ideas for that. I won't have a table or anything, but I'll come do some panels, and that's a cool show. I'd love to go back for Joe Lanta too. I had a blast there. Probably the same thing, just go do some panels or whatever. And but that's the only stuff I have firmed up so far for the year. I mean, I'll do the next ACC is in April. I'll do that. Hopefully I'll be at Dragon Con. I've applied to Multiverse, things like, so there's other shows I want to do. And I've been talking to a lot of bookstores and libraries about doing more things like I'm doing at the Crazy Book Lady, where I'll do a talk or a Q&A and a book signing. Because I'm not a huge draw. Like, most people don't know who I am. So there's not a lot of people coming.
Not in my experience.
Well,
yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute.
Not in the circles I run in.
Yeah.
Earth Station 1, that's Bobby Nash's podcast.
Well, yes. But to the people outside of our sphere, so I'm trying to add things to make it more like appealing. Don't just come buy something, get it signed, and go away. Come, let's talk, ask questions. I'll do a presentation. And that's something else I'm doing. In April, I'm doing the Atlanta Self-Publishing Conference. I'm going to teach a workshop there on doing covers for books. So, which is weird, because I don't actually do a lot of my own, but I can talk about, how you design them. We'll talk about different things like that. And so
certainly have had enough experience with enough books and covers, and whether they were in your control or not.
Yes.
All right. Well, it's not a convention destination. At least I don't think so. But tell us about Dante, Arizona.
Oh, Dante. It came out last year. So I guess I wrote it the year before in 2021. I did a short story for Valhalla Books. They were putting out a anthology called The Devil's Due. And the theme of the anthology is like, when you make a deal with the devil, it comes with a price. And so every story deals with someone has made some kind of deal with some kind of entity or person or bad guy, and now the bills come due. And so whenever I do themed anthologies, the first 5 ideas that come to me, I just won't do them, because I figure if they came to me that easy, somebody else has already pitched that. And so I decided, I was like, what's probably something nobody's going to do? A Western. So I wrote this Western about this tiny town called Dante, and it's a boom town. Like think Deadwood, you know, how it's got, you know, gold. They discovered gold, so they built a town there. And so the deal that the guy who settled the town made, that was where he fell and was about to die. He had run out of food, he had run out of water, his horse had died. He's crawling through the desert on his belly, and he goes, "If you let me live, I'll do whatever." And so a mysterious stranger appears and goes, "Done. Crawl 3 more feet and you find the gold. You know, you discover gold." And so this guy becomes a land baron. The town builds up around it. And then in this story, well, it's time to pay up. And it's a short story, so it all happens kind of quickly, and the payoff gets interrupted. And, you know, it kind of leaves it. So the ending kind of ends with that. Well, we stopped it, but it could happen again. You know, I like those twists, like Twilight Zone-y endings. I am a big admirer of the way Rod Serling would sometimes hint, you know, he would wrap things up, but he would hint that there still could be something under the surface. And apparently, you know, I wasn't thinking beyond that. That was just, I thought that was a cool way to end it. And apparently the publisher read it and saw something and goes, "Okay, so what happens next?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Well, great, I want to do a novel." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Great, so figure out what happens next." And so I wrote Dante's Showdown, which is where they try again. It's their second chance to pay up. And so we go to put that out, and the publisher and I were talking, and it was like, people who didn't read the anthology, I don't want them to come in this confused. What can we do to, you know, get that first story out with the second story? And so our first plan was just to include it in the same book. And as we got to talking, we came up with the idea of just fleshing out the first one. So in the first book, Dante's 10th, we're going to retell that story, but we're going to tell 2 other stories that lead into the second story. So you got 1 reprinted story and 2 new stories in book 1, excuse me. And then Dante's Showdown is book 2, and that's a standalone novella. And then the plan is the publisher wants to do 1 a year, I guess, as long as they're selling, you know, do 1 a year. And so it was decided to do that. And so since we're doing it that way, we're going to release books 1 and 2 at the same time. And so that's why they're doing the Kickstarter as kind of a pre-order thing. Both books are written, the covers they're done. They just have to be printed. That's really all that's
gorgeous covers.
Done. Thank you. Yes, Jeffrey Hayes from Plasma Fire Graphics. He's the guy that does Snow and the Sheriff Myers covers as well. Yes, those were fun. We you know, Jeffrey and I and Adam, the publisher, we talked back and forth a lot on kind of what we wanted to see. And you know, I had ideas about, you know, what I would like to see in the cover. Adam had this really smart idea of wanting, he wanted it to be reminiscent of like the 60s and 70s Western, like splatter covers. And so they've kind of got that look to them. And so Jeffrey took all of that.
Oh yeah.
And put it together.
Really,
and, yeah. So we're doing that. And so we're releasing those. I've already started work on book 3. And then it's going to be Dante's War, unless I change my mind about the title. It's which happens. Because Showdown wasn't the first title for book 2 either. But we're doing the Kickstarter through the 31st of January, which is basically, we've already met, because it was a very low goal. We've already met that. Basically what we wanted to do was make it Kickstarter as pre-orders. We're calling it pre-orders with perks. You can pre-order it, you can get autographed books, you get a poster, other things like that. So we're pretty excited, and that's happening very quickly. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It is coming to an end soon. So as you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, check it out, because you might still be able to jump on board if you get there right away, like as when this episode comes out. But otherwise, like Bobby said, the books will come out and will be out because they have met their goal. And even though they met their goal, that doesn't mean they still can't use some help. And this might be the only way you can get some of these perks. So I definitely recommend checking out the Kickstarter. And I can say that I'm a backer as well. So
Thank you.
yeah, I'm excited for these books. I'm excited for everything else that you've got going on. So much so that, of course, we don't have time for it all. But Bobby, it's been really amazing talking to you and catching up with you this episode.
Thank you. It's been really good to be back. It's been a while since we've all virtually been in the same room together. God, it's been really a long time since we've all physically been in the same room. So yeah,
Been way too long.
we're gonna have to do something about that soon.
Absolutely.
Watch out, world.
Yes.
Watch out. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back to close up the show. Okay, YouTube listeners and viewers, thank you for hanging out with us and watching Bobby talk about everything that's knowledgeable to it. So, Bobby, the quiz time for you.
Okay.
What are you watching right now?
Oh, I am loving of new stuff.
Or whatever.
I am loving Leverage Redemption, which is about to end its second season tomorrow. Well, by the time this airs, it'll already be past, but the second season, that's been fantastic. I love that series. I also just finished up Jack Ryan season 3.
That was awesome. That was
quite
a lot of fun.
Yes. So I'm watching that. Totally blanking. What else did I watch? Oh, I just enjoyed that. This has been a good year for crossovers. I watched they just did an NCIS crossover with all the shows. And although I haven't watched Law and Order in several years, at Mike's recommendation, I actually watched the 3-part crossover they did, which was quite good. So stuff like that's been cool. And I know there's more, but I'm totally blanking. But yeah. And I was so excited. In old rerun stuff I've seen 100 times. Amazon Prime just put Remington Steele on, so I've been slowly
Rewatching
Remington Steele. Yeah, I loved that show when I was a kid, and it's so funny too because during the making of that show, that was the first time Pierce Brosnan was considered for James Bond.
Right.
And the episode I watched last night was the first episode of season 2. And it is a James Bond episode, right down to the music is James Bond music. They make several Bond references. It's like they were milking that for everything they could.
And it was funny too, because they wanted him for like View to a Kill and a couple of other of the Bond movies at that era. And they basically were like, the Remington Steele people were like, no, we're not going to let him out of his contract.
Well, it was one of those weird things because, so all this hype, because the Remington Steele ratings had gone down and they were going to cancel it after season 4. And so the Broccoli's reached out to Pierce to be Bond. So all that makes the news. So he's in the news constantly, which made reruns of Remington Steele go up in the ratings. So that's why they said, we're going to come back for a 5th season. They come back, they film half a season. They cast Timothy Dalton, and when Dalton was cast, they canceled the show.
Of course they do.
That's dirty. But it all worked out in the end because I think, I liked Pierce Brosnan as Bond. I think I didn't care too much for the Dalton movies. I liked him. I don't think he had the best movies. So I think Pierce was better off getting GoldenEye.
Oh God, yes.
So all good things happen when they happen, I guess. But yeah,
everything that's meant for a reason, as my grandmother would say.
But I am enjoying watching that show. It is a lot of fun. If anyone's never seen it, it's very much, even though it's like a mystery show, it's very much a comedy. If you watch it thinking of it as a comedy, it's incredible.
Well, also the chemistry between him and Stephanie is just amazing.
Oh, and then Doris Roberts.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because she comes in season 2 and she is just amazing. Yeah, long before she was Raymond's mom.
Yeah, but this was after she was Angie's mom.
Yeah. So but seeing her running around and getting into these misadventures, because because she was a
Mhm.
short, they played her up as an older lady, although I'm older now than she was then. you know,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Well, or as we like to say, all three of us are older
yeah,
than Wilford Brimley in Cocoon at this
yeah.
point.
Or was it like in Wrath of Khan is all about how we're too old for this stuff, and we're all of us are older than he was there. We're all older than Danny Glover was when he was too old for this shit.
Exactly.
you know,
That's true. So true.
you know. Ugh.
I know. Now we'll get out of here and we'll take our Viagra and
Yeah.
our
Take
our,
our
our
Metamucil and yeah.
Metamucil. Mm, exactly. All right, let's wrap up the show then. 3, 2. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. Want to thank Bobby for stopping by tonight. It's been a blast.
It's been my pleasure. Like I said, it's been way too long since I hung out with you guys. So we need to do this again soon in person.
Oh, very much
Wow.
so.
It's
Very, very
amazing
much so.
all the work that you've been doing. I mean, I can understand why we haven't got a chance to catch up with you, because you've been, I mean, if last year was any indication, man, there's going to be more where that came from, I'm sure.
I hope so. Well, I learned this amazing thing, how when you're at home every weekend, you can get a lot of stuff done. Because before the quarantine and everything, I was at 3 or 4. I was somewhere every weekend at some event, and then as we've talked about earlier, I'm not a young guy anymore. There was a day or two after it to rest, and so being home every day, hey, suddenly work got done. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's pretty amazing, sir. And how can people find you?
BobbyNash.com is my website. That's the hub. There's links to everything. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those places. You can find me all through there.
And we'll definitely have a
awesome.
link to the Kickstarter on the show
you.
notes as well.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, and
very,
if you see me on
so.
social media, I'm posting it like every other day.
And the other days that he doesn't do that, he posts pictures of what came in the mail that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's odd. Yesterday, I only posted one thing, and it was like at 11 o'clock at night because I was just so busy and we were gone part of the day. And so I didn't have anything to post. And so people were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Why? We haven't posted anything today." And I'm like, "Do I post that much?" But apparently
Yes.
I do.
Yes. But it's all good. It's all good.
Oh, exactly. It'll be, Bobby Nash super poster,
Hey, though,
awesome.
it works. I mean, that's how you gotta get out there and beat the bushes and let people know you're there.
No, you are a man of, much marketing of yourself, which is really awesome. Awesome. And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did. And as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
Yeah, in the last episode, I talked about how I really enjoyed being at Inuhele, and one of the things that made Inuhele so great was seeing all these amazing musicians. But there was one musician in particular that I was really excited to see because I know him personally, but I've never actually seen him perform with his band. And that's a singer-songwriter out of Cleveland, Tennessee, which is really close, I believe, to Chattanooga. And his name is Joel Beaver. And the Joel Beaver band came and kicked major rock and roll but he is a multi-instrumentalist, so he does piano, keyboard, guitar, everything. He's got the lineage. His dad is in the Rockabilly Hall of Fame, and he plays that kind of rockabilly, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, that kind of fun time, good time rock and roll music, that that feel good rock and roll music. And it was a lot of fun. It was a really great set, really fun show. He got the crowd right into it. And I'm glad I finally got a chance to see him. So if you are around the Chattanooga area or somewhere in Tennessee, I think that's where he usually plays. I mean, he's always touring too. So if the Joel Beaver Band is coming near you, check it out. You can see all his tour dates and everything like that on his website. I'll have a link to that, of course, in the show notes as well.
That is awesome. I might as well do my shout out about music too. Over the weekend, my sister was in town, and her and her husband are big music heads, even more so than Judy and I. They go to more music. They go see more music even than we do. I know.
That's not possible.
I know, it's shocking. And they were like, "Oh, Atlanta has music venues? I didn't even know that." Yeah, type thing. And we took them to Eddie's Attic and stuff, and it was a ton of fun. But we also took them on a little bit of a road trip, and we went down to Macon, and we actually went to the Allman Brothers Band Museum at the Big House. For the folks who don't know, it is the house, the band actually, when were first starting up in like between 1970 and 1973, they all lived in this house, and not just the band members, their families and everything, hence the name the Big House, because it is a big house, and they've then turned it into a museum. They had recording studios in it, and it's a really, really neat place to go visit. And it's a ton of fun. It's right off 75. It's not all that hard to find, and there's billboards and there's signs and everything. So it's advertised, and it's neat to see areas where of such an influential band like the Allman Brothers, who were huge to the 70s and early 80s and stuff, and was just, this is where creative people, and it's neat to see this kind of thing, and the energies you feel in it and everything. And it's always fun just going to a museum anyway. So it's pretty cool. And a lot of these towns in Atlanta, or actually, excuse me, Georgia, has places like this. There's, I know there's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for Georgia.
Mhm.
And then there's also, and I know Athens has a couple places where they have like a lot like museum pieces and history places for like the B-52s and REM and stuff like that. And it's really cool stuff to see. And you don't realize, oh, Ray Charles, or, even some of the hip hop and stuff like that. It's all from Georgia. And it's really cool to see the stuff and everything. So if you ever get a chance, check out even like the local small places. It doesn't have to be these big cities and everything. It's pretty cool, the stuff you can find and everything.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So definitely check it out, folks. And as Bobby Nash, I'm sure, has been to most of these on one of his many road trips.
If
So
nothing else, we've driven past a lot of them.
exactly,
But
he's waved.
there's a lot of, especially in that area. Like I know there's a one for trains. There's a plane museum.
Mhm.
There's like a
Oh,
military history museum down that way.
down in
And
Warner Robins,
yeah,
yes, so a couple like aviation museums and stuff like that
mhm.
there. It's pretty cool stuff. It is definitely cool stuff. And I know down in if you go down like even further south, like into Plains and stuff, there's the Jimmy Carter libraries down there and stuff like, well, the museum, the libraries in
Mhm.
Atlanta and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then like
so
the Coca-Cola Science Center is in Columbus, and then there's a military, because when I go down for the convention, my dad wants to go to the military museum that's in Columbus.
mhm,
And so we're gonna, so yeah, there's a lot of that stuff, right? And yeah, a lot of it's like, wow, I had no idea this was here, and then yeah,
mhm.
a lot of cool stuff.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. So we'll be back again next week. So please, please, as always, check us out. And as always, thanks for listening to the Earth Station One podcast. We couldn't do this without you, folks. We really can't. Trust us. We see our listings and see what our listeners are. We definitely couldn't do it without you. Please write us anytime at feedback@earthstation1.com. Remember, you could also find Earth Station One wherever fine podcasts are found. Now, Earth Station One can also be found in video format on YouTube. That's right. You can see these lovely faces, and it's actually cool because we've recorded so many episodes, and we do have a video catalog and backlog and everything. Maybe someday we'll actually post them up there. You never know what we can do. But as for now, as we always like to say, please go into YouTube, like, and give it us a like, hit the subscribe button right underneath, or just tell your friends and neighbors. We're not proud to beg. We definitely need the help here. On behalf of
Like and
myself,
share, like and share, like and share.
he said it. On behalf of myself, Mike Faber, of course, Mr. Mike Gordon, and of course, Bobby Nash. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you here next time on the Earth Station One podcast. Stay safe, hug your loved ones, stay warm, stay cool, depends on where you're listening to us, and we will see you soon. Peace, and we are done. Boom.
All right, Nash, back in the airlock with
Back
you.
in the
Get in.
airlock. Yes.
JD's calling for you. He's already buzzed me twice.
Get back in
Yeah.
the airlock. We'll talk
You
to
have
you in about
writing to do,
6
dude.
months, maybe.
That's right.
Come on.
Maybe.
That's right. I dictate, he types.
Right, monkey, right.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's scary.